This podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's new Patreon community, the Global Coffee Think Tank. Check the show notes or head to patreon.com/mapperforward to find out how you can become a member today. Welcome back to the Daily Coffee Pro, everyone. I have Carlos de la Torre with me. De la Torre. I had to say it properly. Hi, Carlos. How are you doing?
Fine.
So we've talked about the coffee industry in Mexico pre-pandemic. And in the last episode, we talked about how the Mexican coffee industry, from the consuming end of business owners and employees and producers, were affected when the pandemic happened. And it sounds like it was quite the shock to the system for everybody. Now we're entering our third year. We're definitely 2 years deep. And today I want to talk about where things are at this far into it. How has it been? Let's start with business owners. Maybe we'll spend this episode talking about business owners and the next couple of episodes talking about employees and producers. But for business owners, and I guess you can speak for yourself, how has the pandemic influenced the way that you've had to adapt to doing business?
It changed my perspective in two particular ways.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is maybe the human one, because the pandemic, it's a problem that no one escapes. So that put all the staff in the same point of difficultness to survive. So suddenly the empathy was growing just like naturally. And for business owners, that includes getting to know their own staff, because some of them doesn't even know the name of the baristas. And suddenly you start to hold deeper conversations about where they live, have they studied something as maybe in college or not? Yeah, do they have a backup plan? It was shocking knowing that one member of our staff doesn't even have a home when the pandemic hit.
They were unhoused?
Yeah. He was kicked from his home, and he was renting, and he ended up at a hotel with his mother.
Right.
And because his mother works there, so she asked the boss to get his kid inside. So there are like pretty rough things to talk, which only came to the surface in these conditions where anything, it's worse than the COVID. So you can talk about anything and it's going to be the end of the world, because the end of the world was COVID.
Right.
So we get to know these kind of details about the workers, and also have a more human perspective about our employees. And then they have also the opportunity to witness the vulnerability of their employers. So different things happened. I saw different stories, but there were some in which the baristas turned out to felt empathy with the business owner, because they realized that he wasn't making the
millions
money
of
they
dollars.
thought. Yeah. But some of them were like maybe against the business owner, because the business itself wasn't prepared for a pandemic, but the business owner did, because he he has a stability thanks to not having a stable business. And there were people just saying like, I'm closing, and anyone can go, and I have my house in the beach, and I'm gonna wait until the pandemic disappears in the beach. Then I'm opening again. So
Wow.
it took the mask from everyone, you know?
Everything was exposed, right? We saw
Yeah.
that in every element of not only the coffee industry, but life. We started to understand the real situation of our friends, and we got to see who our partners were, if we had a partner at the time. Like you started to reassess your relationship with your children, if you had them, or your friends, or your parents, or whatever it was. Everything. The great Dave Chappelle said, the pandemic offered everybody the opportunity to reassess their social contracts.
Yes. Yeah.
So true. Quick question. Did you guys in Mexico get any support from the government? I meant to ask that in the last episode. Nothing, right?
Nothing. We got the total opposite. Yeah.
Can you
Because
talk about
there
it?
were restrictions about how many hours we can work and how many employees we can have at the same time in a coffee shop. And some things got more expensive. And yeah, I've heard from friends in Canada and Germany that they went just to home, and government is going to pay for the 75% of their salary. They're covering everything. Some of them, they even came in vacation to Mexico because they can close the coffee shop and government is going to be paying. But here, the crisis was so bad that even the owner of your space
The
increased
landlord?
the rent. Yes, he increased the rent because maybe he wasn't making enough money at his regular job, so he wants the money came from you.
Fuck.
So yeah, yes, it was really weird because a lot of business closed because of this, or maybe because after the first hit of the pandemic, a lot of business closed and the spaces were empty, and some other companies wanted these spots offering maybe higher rents. It was like a battle.
So businesses like franchises and some of the more globalized,
The biggest one, yeah.
the bigger companies, excuse me, they could come in and take
An offer.
make an offer that was higher than what the last person was
Yes.
paying, and
So
they'd get it.
for small business were very hard days, and also that was for, you know, my coffee shop at that moment has 10 years, so it was kind of stable.
Yeah.
It has reputation. It has
Right.
customers,
Stable,
regulars.
right?
Yeah,
In inverted
stable.
commas. Yeah.
Yeah, but at that moment, the baristas who lost their jobs started to uh, take a chance in the roasting and cold brew. So
right. So they
a lot of,
pivoted.
yeah, but suddenly they are now business owners, and for them it was very difficult. I've heard a lot of stories of people opening and closing 3 months after.
Yeah.
And just I've heard about one of the first projects I showcased, and my subscription closed their doors maybe a month ago. And it was very sad because it's people who put all their dreams in that opportunity.
And whatever small money they had access to, maybe they borrowed money to have a go. They're thinking, we saw this all over the world. Baristas thought that this was the sign that they needed, or roasters, this was the sign that they needed to take the opportunity to start their own business. Again, all they knew was that they had passion about coffee and they lost their jobs. So the next logical jump was to start my own business, but they didn't have any knowledge of how to run a business or build a customer base or create a customer acquisition plan or anything like that. But because so many other people have done it before them, it can't be that hard, right? Not right.
Yes, it surprised a lot.
It surprised you a lot?
Yes, because maybe the situation do not generate a lot of new coffee shops and roasteries and cold brew brands as the pandemic can, but they do left a lot of knowledge, because now you have an entire generation of roasters and baristas
that left,
who already had the opportunity to crash their business, and now as employees they have a different perspective.
Yeah.
And that really is like, for me, for example, it was super difficult to realize a lot of things because I've never been an employee.
You've never been an employee?
Not at a coffee shop.
Wow.
Maybe at school, or maybe I worked at a coffee shop but never get paid. But not an actual employee.
Yeah, wow.
So I learned everything at a time. And now I may gonna hire baristas who are as experienced as I am in these kind of relationships between employers and employees, and it's gonna be easier to build relationships because they understand from another perspective.
So are you saying that one of the positive elements of the pandemic, if we can call it positive, because that's not the correct word, but it's the closest word that I can find. But one of the positive elements of it is that people who were previously business owners have now become employees, and they come with more empathy and more understanding of what it means to be a part of a business. And so they make really great employees.
And also more aware of the responsibilities.
Right.
It's like they have grown up. They're more mature.
Yeah.
And so we have these both sides, mature employees and like deconstructed business owners who already know everything what they made wrong,
Right. Which creates the potential for something really beautiful to come and really powerful to come from this. So it sounds like for business owners, what happened was their baristas at the time that the pandemic hit, and over the past 2 years, a lot of baristas ended up leaving the industry, and a lot of business owners lost their businesses and re-entered to the industry as employees. And now we have the potential for the next phase of the pandemic as it keeps going on and on and on. And especially as 2022, it's my belief that 2022 is going to be the most challenging of this pandemic so far, and that COVID is going to be the least of our problems.
Mm-hmm.
I think this year is when we have to start dealing with the financial ramifications globally for what happened during the pandemic and long before the pandemic, but we have to deal with these things now. And I think that what you've outlined is the potential for something really valuable to come for the people who are experiencing, who managed to survive in the coffee industry this long and have learnt to partner and create teams, to use the map it forward term, to conspire to each other's success.
Yeah.
Because this is what was missing before. You had employers working for employers and employees working for employees. Neither of those two were really conspiring to each other's success, when in actual fact, if the employer is working for the employee and the employee is working for the employer, both benefit. Everybody wins there. And it sounds like it could be something very exciting. Something really great could come from this.
Yes, we only need to deal with one of the biggest problems of the human nature, which is to forgive stuff. We need to generate a memory about this situation. Something that I also thought about a tattoo or something in my arm, just to have this vulnerability present each day.
I think it's a great idea. You've definitely planted the idea in my mind, because I think that you used a really, really important word at the beginning of this episode, where you said that employers gained a new empathy. And I think that if that's not the word that will, or the big thing, the big opportunity that this pandemic invited us to step into, I don't know what is. Right?
Yes, it should be the reward.
Yeah. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about where things are at for employees in the pandemic now. Okay?
Okay.
Peace, love, and peanut butter, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day.
See you.
Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.